Hello, everyone. This is Adam Meister, the Bitcoin Meister, the Disrupt Meister. Welcome to Today in Bitcoin. Today is September the 10th, 2017. Buy and hold, gold and hold, people. Think long term. First of all, check out the link section below, cryptohwwallet.com. Get your Trezor, your Ledger Nano. Use my affiliate link. You get your leather case, etc., etc. You guys know the deal. But also check out those notes section to check out Andy Hoffman, all of his very important links, including his new site, including his Twitter, including his Steemit. Make sure you do it right now. Follow him on Twitter, follow him on Steemit. Obviously, I'm talking about Andy Hoffman because he is right here. Hello, Andy Hoffman.
Hey, Adam. Absolutely, gold and hold is, I could have taken that myself as my motto, except you have it. Instead, my motto is the quest to the future of money and the sound money blog of the 21st century.
Well, yes, this is huge news you have to report to us today about your new website, your new endeavor. Give everybody a little bit of background just in case they're not familiar with your old job and now what is going on with this new awesome endeavor and what you have to tell us. Breaking the story here. We love breaking stories here, whether it be B-Gold, crypto dividends, Venezuela last night. Andy's here to tell his own awesome breaking information.
Yeah, and I would love to talk about B-Gold. Well, yes, anyone who doesn't know me yet, I worked for 16 years on Wall Street, 5 years in the mining industry, and the last 6 years at Miles Franklin Precious Metals as the marketing director. I have been writing about precious metals for, going back to 2003 or so, and I've been writing aggressively about my bullishness on Bitcoin for nearly the past 2 years. And that's how I came across you, and I came across the World Crypto Network, Andreas Antonopoulos, and the amazing people on Twitter, because I used to actually hate Twitter, but now I think because of what I've learned in the Bitcoin world that it's one of the greatest communication tools in the world. But anyway, after 6 years, look, I love gold. I have spent an entire lifetime focusing on gold, but it was becoming a bit too much talking every single day about gold and nothing else. I had so many other things to say, particularly about cryptocurrency, because I believe it is the future of money, and I believe it's the greatest financial innovation and possibly the greatest investment. Not possibly, I think it's the greatest investment opportunity of all time. So I left Miles Franklin less than 3 weeks ago, and due to the amazing advances in technology, I was actually able to put together a business in just 3 weeks' time. And as a result, this morning I launched my new website, cryptogoldcentral.com. It's going to be a subscription-based blog where I write pretty much every day. I mean, anyone who knows me, go to milesfranklin.com. You see how prolific I am. And now that I have no constraints about how much I have to write or when I have to write, I'm going to be very active there and also in the public domain, of course, with podcasts like this one and on Twitter. The subscription price is going to be just $225 for an entire year. And I'm talking about it's probably going to be hundreds of posts. I mean, many hundreds of posts over that time. I have not yet set up the free 7-day subscription trial, but I'm going to do that. But either way, I really hope that you, as I say on the site, join me in my quest to the future of money, because basically the premise of the site is I'm going to be talking about cryptocurrency and precious metals, but more specifically, Bitcoin and to a lesser extent Litecoin, which I believe in as very strongly as well. And in the precious metal domain, I'm going to focus on gold because I think it will always be an amazing store of value. And together, as I've said way back in my May 2016 article, I think Bitcoin and gold are the twin destroyers of the fiat regime.
Okay, everyone. Now remember, it is cryptogoldcentral.com. That is Andy's home now. You're going to have to get familiar with it. You're going to see him all around, obviously, spreading the word about this. I want everyone to pound that like button. If you love the news breaking abilities of this channel, you can email me at adam@trezorhelp.com. Now, I know some people in the chat, you're going to have questions. Someone already emailed me a question, but it's hard to see all your questions, so it's always appreciated when you do the super chat. I will definitely get to your questions if you do the super chat because I can see the color pop out of the corner of my eye. Now, one thing that you mentioned, I mean, people want to hear about Bitcoin and obviously on this channel, but there are a lot of people coming here to hear about precious metals. So I'm going to start off with a precious metals question. What about silver? Are you out of that now, or what is your perspective on that?
That's an interesting question to start with. But look, let's face it, both gold and silver have been suppressed for so many years by as I call it, the cartel, which is essentially the leading central banks, governments of the world that are protecting the dollar hegemony. It couldn't be more obvious that the stock market is held up, the bond market is held up, and the stock and gold and silver prices are held down with naked shorting. As far as though, I think I've had a kind of a change in my view of the world, though, because the way that I see it now, because of Bitcoin and because of the ability that Bitcoin shows you to store large amounts of value in very small packages, I think that's a major change in the mindset that we're going to see going forward. And while I think that gold, because of its very high price, you can still store tremendous amounts of value in small packages. Silver, it's a lot more difficult. Like, for instance, $1 million of silver right now is going to, it's going to weigh more than a ton, probably closer to 1.5 tons. And it's not that easy to store that. I mean, yes, there are great storage facilities, third parties you have to trust. And yes, you could store it at home. But when you're talking about thousands of pounds of silver, it just doesn't, it's not very practical. And at the same time, it's, it provides some major logistical challenges. So I believe that silver prices are going to go up as the cartel is eventually destroyed. And frankly, as I've said for some time, my new base case for what's going to happen to the quote cartel is a lot different than it used to be, and much different than anyone else in the precious metal industry. Whereas me and everyone else have always thought that the cartel will be overwhelmed by demand. There'll just be a swamping of physical demand that will overcome their paper shorting, and we'll have shortages. And while, of course, that could happen at any time, especially if you have a black swan event, like say we go to war with North Korea, I think what's more likely is that Bitcoin and cryptocurrency in general is going to usurp the fiat currency system, as I call it, the ultimate monetary death cross. And as a result, the focus of governments is going to be away from gold and silver, because they're going to realize that the real monetary threat is Bitcoin. And of course, as I've said, they're going to flail like Don Quixote at windmills, like what you see this weekend with the second straight Chinese FUD weekend of complete BS. That's immaterial, even if it was true, but it's probably not even true in the first place. So I think governments are really going to be more focused on that, and as a result, they're not even going to really worry about gold and silver anymore, because they realize not many people are watching it. So I think we'll probably wind up looking at gold prices a few years from now at $10,000 an ounce. And no one will really care about it because everyone's focused on Bitcoin. And as for silver, yeah, it'll go up. But I really do think that the monetary value that it's always had is going to be diminished by the fact that people are going to be saving value in small packages, be they crypto or gold. And yes, some people say the silver-gold ratio should rise dramatically in time because of the breakout of, breaking up the cartel. But I'm not so sure that we're ever going to see the kind of low gold-silver ratios that we have in the past. But I believe in gold more than I ever have before. I believe silver will go up. I just believe in gold more.
I want everyone to pound that like button, because what he just said about silver, I haven't heard anywhere else. That is really a unique and logical perspective. And I like your small packages term. I like that. I mean, it is very convenient in this day and age. You want to be able to store stuff conveniently, and obviously you need a lot of silver to be wealthy on silver. So
I mean, we have the attorney general, what's his name, Sessions, really bad guy, talking actively about how he wants civil forfeiture to be a law. He's saying, I want to basically run a police state where we can take away whatever we want from whatever we want. And of course, they're creating every kind of imaginable law to call absolutely everything anyone does anti-money laundering, or I should say money laundering, so that they can come in and confiscate. And, if you have 1,000 pounds of silver, it's pretty hard to hide it. If you have the same dollar worth of gold, it's pretty easy to hide it. And if you have the same amount of Bitcoin, it's impossible for them to ever find it. So I mean, again, you're talking about worst case scenarios. If you ever got to a scenario where governments are actually trying to confiscate gold or Bitcoin or whatever, the game's already over. Currencies have crashed. We're in a police state, and probably the amount of your net worth is going to be not on the top of your list of worries. But the fact is, Bitcoin has showed people that you can store tremendous amounts of value in small packages. And, it's funny, one of the first articles I wrote, private content on my new website, I wrote about, it's called Usurious Credit Card Fees, a major reason why Bitcoin will succeed. And the reason why I wrote it is because, look, when people buy things with credit cards, they don't realize how much the fees are. It's only when you sell things with credit cards that you realize. And now that I'm getting some subscriptions and realizing that Visa and MasterCard are taking 3% out of everything that I get of my revenues, you realize that when Roger Ver talks about large fees of being $9 per transaction on average, $9 for like $1 million transaction. And by the way, now they're down to $3 per transaction. Because they're not spamming the mempool anymore. Even what's a quote large transaction is ridiculous. The point is, Bitcoin is easy to store. Bitcoin costs nothing to transmit, for those who want to transmit it. And I think as time passes, it becomes more and more monetary in nature. And really, I really truly believe that once we get through the end of the year and this whole SegWit 2x thing is resolved, whether they do it or they do it and it's a big failure like Bitcoin Cash is, I think that's going to be a historic inflection point when people realize that Bitcoin is truly a store of value on a par with gold. And I look forward to what it does next year, because I really believe that 2017 is just the appetizer for what we're going to see in 2018. And then by the time 2018 is done, they're going to start discounting your favorite event, the Bitcoin halving of 2020 and the Litecoin halving of 2019.
All right, bringing up the halving, I love it. And I also really want to stress, Andy, he said in 3 weeks, he set up this business. And obviously he's very well known in both spaces already, but it just shows you out there, people, you can do something like this too. Be an entrepreneur, jump, he was used to working for someone for a long time. Just like that, he's his own boss. He's got this thing going. He's got CryptoGoldCentral.com going. You can do the same thing on a smaller scale, maybe on a larger scale. I don't know, but it's very possible. I'm just so happy to see his transformation over the last 4 years, especially this last year. And he has just added this unique perspective to the Bitcoin community. He is the combo guy that brings the gold knowledge and the Bitcoin knowledge to the table. He's got his, it's very unique. There are other gold guys that are jumping over. He was the first, but he's way ahead of the game. And that's why you got to check out CryptoGoldCentral.com. I also mentioned, again, someone in the chat said, hey, what is Andy's Twitter? Well, again, I said it's linked to in the notes section below this video. You guys, listening comprehension is very important in life, very important in life. So again, check out the notes section below. I've got his Steemit link. I've got his link to his website. I've got his link to his Twitter, and I want you guys to follow him on Twitter, to follow him on Steemit, because it's awesome. I'm retweeting his stuff all the time. I'm re-steaming his stuff all the time. And by the way, speaking of Steemit and Twitter, if you guys are, fans of that kind of thing, you would have already known about Andy's website, because that information came out on there early in the morning today, East Coast time, really early West Coast time. So just another reason, get into social media. Going to give his information out there, but also, check out his newsletter. I'm definitely pumped about this new addition to the space, and you're going to see him all around. So let's
and let me just say one more thing, Adam, about crypto and gold. The concept of diversification. Look, I'm not a believer, generally speaking, of diversification. I believe in being invested in long-term bull markets heavily. But as for gold and crypto, gold and Bitcoin, let's just say gold and Bitcoin, they are natural allies. Obviously, that's my view, because they're both fighting the fiat currency system. But they're also great hedges against each other. So if you have a tremendous amount of value in one, it doesn't hurt to have some of it put in the other. Like, let's say something catastrophic happens to Bitcoin. Well, what do you think is going to happen to gold? Or what if India or China says they're confiscating gold? What do you think is going to happen to Bitcoin? It's going to go up. And then also the same thing, Adam, sometimes you talk about Litecoin, you say, well, it won't do as well as Bitcoin over time. And of course, it depends on what time frame. I mean, if you started from January 1st of this year, Litecoin has done better. If you started from January 1st of 2009, Bitcoin has done better. But generally speaking, it's hedges. Look, if somehow something goes wrong with Bitcoin from a technological standpoint, it can help Litecoin. So again, I'm just diversifying, but I'm diversifying very narrowly. I believe in Bitcoin and gold, and Litecoin is probably my third biggest holding. I don't really have many other holdings right now, because right now those are the three things that I believe in most. But Bitcoin, I would have to honestly rank Bitcoin, on a par with gold, and maybe even slightly more so, because I believe that strongly in the future of cryptocurrency, and it is by far the leader. With really, I don't see anything catching up to it, really, ever.
Wow, that interesting portfolio there. I'm sure people are getting excited. More and more Litecoin people are their eyes are popping up every Litecoin phrase that you say.
Well, you know what, Adam? I put a tweet out, I don't know, 2 weeks ago, and I said Bitcoin is the most perfect investment vehicle of all time. And I said, and I think Litecoin is the second most perfect. And I really, truly believe it, because it truly is the silver to Bitcoin's gold, in the fact that at this point, because of what it's created for itself, a niche as essentially Bitcoin, just on a smaller scale. And look, if Trace Mayer is right, because I just saw he was doing an interview with Crush the Street, and he said that possibly Litecoin could be used for these atomic swaps as the currency of choice. Well, if it actually has a use case aside from simply being another storage vehicle, that could really help it. But most importantly, and this is why I wrote that article back 2 months ago in July, about why I thought Bcash would succeed as an investment. Forget about the fact that it's useless as a product. It's just, it's created simply to, for FUD reasons, to scare Bitcoin and to make some money for greedy miners. There's just, my main thesis of crypto is that there is going to be literally tens of trillions of dollars leaving the fiat currency system in the coming decade. I think people are finally starting to realize that the system has destroyed them. And more importantly, because of cryptocurrency, they actually have an avenue to get out of it. I mean, even people who don't have a lot of money, look, it's almost impossible for the average person to get their hands on gold. I mean, most places you couldn't buy it if you wanted to. But now that people can buy cryptocurrency, there's going to be trillions that are leaving the system, and they are desperate right now for liquid vehicles. Bcash is a liquid vehicle, has the name Bitcoin in it, has got some big supporters, and people just love it. They don't care. The 80%, they just want things that have the word Bitcoin in it. And the same goes with BGold, and the same goes with pretty much anything, because as we're going to see in 2018 and beyond, an unbelievable amount of capital flowing out of traditional assets and into the cryptocurrency system.
Wow, we're like on the same page on a lot of things here. You're reading my mind. I was going to ask you about crypto dividends real soon, so save some of that crypto dividend information there. I want to say about Litecoin. I mean, I've always said, they definitely a legitimate mind, a legitimate person. Charlie Lee is behind it, a legitimate team of developers and everything like that. It's always been in my top tier of all coins. You give a reason why it for me, I know you're not. I say, and I've always said, it is, if you're going to speculate, that's one of my top tier ones. If you're going to just speculate, again, I put Bitcoin ahead of it all, but I do have a top tier of all coins. People sometimes want to know them and everything. I've mentioned some of them before, Litecoin, Monero, whatever. But that is one of the reasons, what you just mentioned about Litecoin, that it is, to me, there is a lot of potential there. I do, of course, believe over the long run, I believe Bitcoin will do the best. But
put it this way, with Litecoin, right? Can you really, or anyone, name another coin that has a really reputable, strong leader? And yes, some people will say Vitalik, But Ethereum is a completely centralized asset, and on top of that, anyone who watches the space realizes that it has tremendous amount of problems and risks, starting with the fact that it's an ICO itself and that it spawns all these ICOs and the technology doesn't necessarily work and it's centralized, all kinds of bad things. I wouldn't touch Ethereum if you paid me. But it's probably the only other crypto that actually has a leader people are aware of and have respect for. But Litecoin has one in Charlie Lee, who not only is well respected, but he's not actually the leader. So it's not like he has the risk. Look, if something actually did happen to Vitalik, it would really hurt Ethereum. If something happened to Charlie Lee, it would not hurt Litecoin because it's a decentralized asset with its own, I guess, core development team that'll do just fine. Yet it does have one of the best, let's call it, executives in the business. I mean, people forget. I mean, it's possible to actually attribute SegWit on Bitcoin to him more than any other person, because Litecoin getting SegWit because of his actions is probably the biggest reason why the BIP41 and the UASF was all pushed through. So I couldn't be more confident in him. I watch what he says and does. He's probably one of the brightest minds and hardest workers in the business. And so I have absolutely 100% confidence in Litecoin. I just think it's, quote, silver to the Bitcoin's gold. So Bitcoin will always be my largest position.
I mean, this is some awesome information here. I want to say, yes, Charlie Lee is also like the most honest guy in the cryptocurrency space too. And he's been on this channel before, just like Andy Hoffman's been on this channel before. We are proud on this channel to have the best freaking guest in the whole space here. I go out of my way to bring all sorts of minds to this thing. I'm very proud of it. That's why I wanted to bring that up. And I like Charlie Lee a lot. I wanted to say something that you said. How many people know, and let's leave it like that. Let's leave it there for a second. How many people know Litecoin and Ethereum? This is a big point. They are definitely, I think you can agree with me, after Bitcoin, if you ask someone to name another cryptocurrency, they're either going to say Litecoin or Ethereum. I don't think there's, I can't think of another one that people would say. And again, I'm based in the English-speaking world, which kind of is big into Coinbase, obviously, and Coinbase has Litecoin and Ethereum. So that helps a little bit. But I mean, we're getting into a little bit of a marketing thing, and I'm trying to go in that direction because you're into marketing. So what do you think about that? Or do you agree with me that when someone asks, hey, name a cryptocurrency other than Bitcoin, do they say Litecoin and Ethereum?
Yeah, I don't think nearly anyone I speak to has a clue about anything. I mean, if even some of the smartest people I know, if they mention Bitcoin, they usually are not speaking correctly about it, or they really don't know a thing about it other than that they've heard the name Bitcoin. And I would be doubtful that almost anyone I've spoken to has even heard of Litecoin or Ethereum. So, like you say, we're in a bubble here. So yeah, if you're in a world where people are looking at cryptocurrencies, of course, they're going to know Litecoin and Ethereum. And they probably won't know any of the others unless they're really into it, in which case they'll know all of the top tier coins. But I would say, generally speaking, the average person on the planet has never heard of Litecoin or Ethereum. And, the whole thing with BitThumb and some of these other exchanges that, when they offer cash markets, it's a big deal because, again, it is so hard to buy cryptocurrency if you're new. First of all, you got to trust the whole system and the transfers and, oh, my God, I got to transfer huge value by the click of a mouse with no intermediaries. And of course, there's the AML KYC. So it's very hard to get accounts at some of these places, and they have limits. And then, if you and most of the coins you would actually have to buy with other coins like on Poloniex or Kraken or any of these places. So it's really hard. And obviously, most people can't do that or wouldn't even think of doing it because they barely even understand Bitcoin. So, to have your coin listed in a cash market like Litecoin or Ethereum is a really big deal. And anytime a major exchange offers a coin in a cash market where you can actually pay with like a wire or a credit card, it's a really, really big deal because we are so early in this. And, again, I'm talking about trillions of dollars and euros and yen and all that are going to go into this sector. And you look at like Litecoin, which has gone from 4 to 100 almost a few weeks ago, and it's still got this micro cap And even Ethereum, look, if nothing bad happens to Ethereum, like if the government doesn't like raid the Ethereum Foundation, or their technology actually collapses for whatever reason, Ethereum's going to be around for a while too, and it's got a 30 billion or 35 billion. It's also, in today's hyperinflated world, it's pretty much a microcap valuation. I just wouldn't buy it because it terrifies me, all the risks there, as opposed to the nice decentralized Bitcoin and Litecoin networks, which are super secure and don't depend on ICOs and government regulatory stuff. So I just think that it's so early in the game, the fact that there's so much inability to buy cryptocurrencies with fiat currency, and so if you can get yourself offered for in a cash market, it's a big deal.
It is a huge deal. Who is going to be the next on Coinbase? God, there was something else that you just said that I wanted to just go wild at. Anyway, a question that just came into my mind though was, you're talking about centralized, respected leaders, coins being added to Coinbase, also the importance of being anonymous. And what do you think of Fluffy Pony at Monero? And what do you think of Monero?
Well, I don't know him. I know he did that one weird prank where he was kind of like mocking the ICO people, and it hurt the price a little bit. But, again, it just shows that even a guy, and I'm not even sure what his role is. Did he create Monero, or does he just market it? Like, he is the creator. So right. So obviously, even his stupid comments couldn't stop the price. Ultimately, a few months later, at the time it was probably 80, and then I saw it was like almost 200 or 150, whatever it was. So it's not like he could stop it just by saying goofy, stupid things. But yeah, I think we've talked about this before. I don't know much about any of the other ones. I certainly don't understand any of them technically. The only ones I really have any kind of mild technical understanding are Bitcoin and Litecoin, simply because the smart people that I listen to talk about them all the time. And yes, I know Monero, the whole, it's anonymous, but I also read constantly about how Bitcoin is going to be able to do the same things too, especially now that it has SegWit. And so you're going to be able to add all kinds of layers like the fungibility and anonymity. So it's kind of like it's the .com era where you have companies with ideas that eventually get subsumed. And so, yes, if people want to speculate and it's a quality company, it's a quality coin with a secure network and people just looking for things to buy, they'll probably do just fine. But as far as, being the leader of anonymity, that's ridiculous. I'll bet you 2 years from now, there'll be 10 coins, including Bitcoin, that'll do the exact same thing. So, when you have a behemoth like Bitcoin, betting that any of these particular coins are going to have some app that they're going to be able to do independently of Bitcoin is a pretty weak bet. But, if you want to bet that Monero is going to go up in price because everyone's just speculating on this community, and when money starts flowing out of fiat, just looking for places to go, it'll probably do great. In fact, in our community where everyone says every one of these ICOs is a scam, a lot of people actually think Monero is like, decent developers and, not a bad idea. So, if you have any kind of respect relative to the other 1,000, that's certainly going to help your ability to make the price go up. But that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be the leader of anonymity going forward.
Yeah, I just, all of a sudden in my mind, it came to be, we're talking about Vitalik, we're talking about Charlie Lee. And now I said, why don't I just bring up Fluffy Pony, because all three of them, totally different styles and thought of in totally different ways. So I thought it was interesting I never heard anyone bring up all three of them at the same time. So there you go, guys. You heard about the faces of three prominent altcoins.
Well, put it this way, Adam, because I was saying before, I have no one, including you, would have a hard time naming any of the faces of these things. Okay, so in Bitcoin, obviously we have a ghost, Satoshi Nakamoto. We have Vitalik. We have Charlie Lee, and then the fourth one, the only other one you could think of, is some guy who people only know by a Twitter handle called Fluffy Pony. That's as much of the personalities of the cryptocurrency network as we have at this point. That's how young we are in this sector.
Basically, that there are the people who are like obsessed with Dash, who will scream, Evan, Amanda, they are my obsession over it. So yes, there are different, but those are the three easiest ones, definitely. Then I would say
Dash, it's just Amanda, but I think people get so hung up because she's pretty that they don't really understand what her role is there. And obviously she's done a really good job marketing the company, or I don't even know what to call these things, companies or coins, because Dash has a big following. But I have no opinion on its technology. And from listening to the World Crypto Network type people, it doesn't sound like it's something that has long-term viability, but it's obviously been a great investment. I have a feeling it's going to continue to be one, but I'm not recommending it.
No. I wanted to say, everyone, and I'm glad you pointed that out. Over a year ago when they hired her, I said, that is just the best marketing move in all of cryptocurrency. Like her or hate her, or like Dash or hate Dash, that was the best marketing move in all of crypto.
She's a fantastic marketer. She's smart. She speaks well, and the investment's done well. So what more can you ask?
Yeah, I mean, I mean, I wouldn't say Dash was obscure before, but it put them way up there in terms of people knowing what Dash was, because they hired I mean, again, and some people are like, well, a coin shouldn't have a spokesperson. Okay, it's either here nor there. I'm just making a marketing point. I think we are definitely on the same page with marketing in crypto, how somehow people got to market crypto a little bit better. And I'm up for all sorts of creative solutions. I mean, I'm doing my thing, man. I'm traveling around the world talking about it. I've got a channel here. This is marketing crypto. What you're doing too is you've got your CryptoGoldCentral.com. People, check it out. That's marketing it. That's spreading the word. And Andy is an awesome marketing dude. And we need more marketing people like him in this space. Very much so.
And there will be, as I said, 2018 will be the year of Bitcoin marketing. I can't emphasize enough, because we're sitting here talking about how little there is. You have the Fluffy Pony, you have Amanda. In Bitcoin, who is marketing it? I mean, yes, it's a network of people on Twitter, but there's the institutional money is just starting to flow into it, and there's going to be an unbelievable. I mean, if people thought the .com era or even the venture capital era and the unicorns was a big deal as far as the amount of money that's gone into a sector and created professional marketing and professional development, it's going to be nothing compared to what happens in Bitcoin. I think 2018 is the year where you're going to see major mainstream developments, particularly now that I can't emphasize this enough, that SegWit has been activated, which enables it. Well, it gets rid of any remaining technological security worries that anyone had, but it also gives it the ability to have all these secondary layers put on top of it. So you're going to see tens of billions of dollars invested into creating, making Bitcoin better in the next year or so. And so you're going to see some, we look at what's going on. We have most of our marketing is on Twitter. Very few people, wear suits, that kind of thing. You're going to see some serious professional marketing of Bitcoin in the coming year, on a par with what Wall Street did during the .com era.
Excellent. I am pumped about 2018. I'm pumped about 2020. I'm pumped about tomorrow. I'm always pumped, I guess. So we've got, again, if people want to ask questions, I can see out of the corner of my eye the super chat. If you do the super chat, I'll definitely get that in. As I said, one of my clients actually emailed me at adam@tresorhelp.com the following question. And again, if you guys need a crypto consultation, you need help setting up your Trezor, you just want to talk, I'm available. You can email me at adam@tresorhelp.com. We can set up a consultation. So here is the first question here. What's it says? Ask Andy what he thinks gold and silver would do in the next couple of years, and would he recommend selling gold and silver and buying Bitcoin?
Right. Well, I mean, I think I've made my views clear over many year period about precious metals, and particularly as I start out this call, I am more bullish now about gold than I've ever been before. But to me, as I said earlier, I just think that I no longer believe that the gold-silver ratio is going to fall as much as people believe it will. I believe that the cryptocurrency era has ushered in a time where people are going to focus on storing large amounts of money in small packages, be they crypto or in precious metals. So while I believe that the gold cartel that suppresses prices, i.e. the US government, the ECB, and a bunch of other bad actors that are trying to maintain the dying fiat regime, I believe that they will be destroyed or possibly voluntarily disband. And when they do, the prices will go up dramatically. So it really doesn't matter if I believe less in silver than I did before. Silver is going to go to a much higher equilibrium level. But I don't anymore believe that the gold-silver ratio is going to fall as much as people think. I think gold is going to become a bigger store of value than it ever has been before as the fiat currency regime collapses. I just don't believe that people are going to want to store thousands of pounds of silver when they can store a few pounds of gold and get the same amount of value. And yes, there'll be some people that do believe the gold-silver ratio will fall that much. But in the meantime, you're going to have to invest in thousands of pounds of silver to get that kind of return. And it is not the easiest thing to do in the world. It is certainly doable. There are great storage options. And if you're really good at it, you can store it at home. But I just don't think, I think we're headed to a new age of storing a lot in a little.
And what the second part of that question, though, selling your silver or gold for Bitcoin?
Oh, right. Well, look, I mean, I have a lot of Bitcoin now. I have a lot of gold. I don't have a lot of silver. So I think that's the answer to your question.
Yeah, I was about to say. Now, about, diversification that you brought up before, something that I wanted to ask. You don't have to answer this question. I own a house, because people ask me all the time. They're like, you're so into crypto. But I do own a house. So that's a completely different financial mechanism. Do you own a house?
Yeah.
Yeah. So there you
I live there. I don't consider it a financial asset. I live in my house and I'm proud of my house, but I don't buy it to flip it. I've been here 10 years and I may be here another 20 or 30.
Yeah, and I don't buy mine to flip it either, but it still is an asset that we both have. I mean, that it does play a role in our thinking. It is something to build upon. I know that if everything went wrong in my life, I could do something with that house. I could get a home equity line of credit out of it or something like that.
Well, yeah, that's a choice. That's not even an investment choice. That's just it's as much of a personal choice as it is a financial choice. And yeah, I mean, if you own a house with equity, you can cash it out and live on that equity if it's enough. But you want to have a house, and some people, especially married people, I'm not a MGTOW, family man. There are other personal considerations to deal with, but yeah, of course, a house is an asset, and it's something that you have to consider.
Yeah, it's like a quiet form of diversification that I forget that I'm even part of sometimes. And I do. I mean, I like to tell people. I don't like to tell everybody every bit of personal info. Like people ask me, how many Bitcoin do you own, Adam? And I've hinted around at that. I can't believe people don't get it yet. But I'm not going to say the specific number. But I do like to give a little bit of input. People are like, Adam, you're not diversified. What's going? Well, I mean, you got to. I'm not saying, and this is not advertising for housing either. But if you already do own a house, okay, you're in good shape, dude. Get into some Bitcoin now. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. Anyway, the something else I wanted to bring up to you, and by the way, I love this small packages saying that you've said a few times now. You got to keep using that. I'm gonna use that now, man. That's awesome. Crypto dividends. Let's move on to that real quick. This term that I came up with, that because again, people were so worried about Bcash, were so worried about 2x, and I saw that in the end of the day, after just analyzing the situation, that this is just a one-time dividend for those of us who are part of the 20% and calmly hold our Bitcoin. So now we've got. And I predicted that friendly forks would come about also. I predicted that a while ago. And so now we have this thing called B Gold that's going to come out before 2x. And by the way, today there are rumors that 2x might not even happen, or that it won't be as big. Again, this was all so obvious this was going to happen, that the 2x people were going to jump out of that agreement and come up with every excuse possible. And the excuses are starting to come out. I still think they'll do 2x. But going back to my point here, a lot of people start screaming when I talk about crypto dividends, like, no, it hurts the Bitcoin. It hurts Bitcoin. They're trying to destroy Bitcoin. Any fork of Bitcoin is trying to destroy Bitcoin. I just think it's a unique way of forming altcoins and a way to reward us Bitcoin holders. What do you think about this situation?
Well, first of all, I have to give you double kudos because you didn't just create that term. You created it at the worst. I remember emailing you. It was the day a few weeks ago when the price got smashed to like 3,600 from like 4,500. And there was all the FUD going on about, 2X and everything. And that's when you came up with your crypto dividends. And it turned out to be right. And yeah, I have many things to say about it. For one, again, from what I said earlier before Bitcoin Cash, that there's going to be such a hunger for liquid assets that a lot of them are going to work simply because, hey, you forked out, you got the name Bitcoin in it, and it's something I can invest in. Most people have not the slightest clue of what it worked. They don't understand what it takes to keep Bitcoin Cash going, meaning miners have to actually mine it at a loss or else it's going to collapse. So this, there'll be more miners in time as the prices of everything go up. So there'll be more hash power probably available to keep it going, even though it has absolutely no practical usage in the world. And as it turned out, Bitcoin Cash was a prototypical crypto dividend. You literally got free money. And even a month later now, it's still $500 per Bitcoin if you haven't split it yet, like you haven't. So yes, look, that's not going to play out forever, by the way. It's not like people are going to be like, well, I want to do it and I want to do it. I want to do it because it's always going to be 0.2 Bitcoin. No, there's a diminishing return from all of them. That's why B Gold is in a hurry to do it. Maybe B Gold has got something good going. Maybe it's just a greedy guy who's like, I want to be number 2 because look at how much money we got from B Cash. Let's try B Gold. But maybe the guy actually has some kind of technology. Look, he says, I want to compete with Ethereum. And so as I tweeted right after, said, can you imagine if they actually could compete with Ethereum and grab Ethereum's market share? And therefore, by simply holding, as you say, the root coin of Bitcoin, you will have a massive position in the potentially second biggest cryptocurrency for free. And I'm not saying that's going to happen, but he says that's what he wants. Maybe he's just simply wants the free money. And again, if they keep doing these things, you're going to have less and less value because you just can't create money out of thin air forever, no matter how many times you use the word Bitcoin in it. But as for, I think it's been proven by Bcash that absolutely it doesn't hurt Bitcoin in the slightest. I think 2X is a little more tricky because that lack of replay protection is it kind of makes it like a poisoned apple. I mean, put it this way, if F2X goes, you couldn't pay me to split my coins. I will probably never split them because I'm so terrified of that no replay protection and what it means. I mean, maybe years down the road, if the smartest people, the Bitcoin developers come out and say, yes, we've completely solved this bug. So if you split your coins, if they're still worth something, you will be fine. But I'm telling you, there's no way most people are going to touch that if it even happens. And frankly, I don't think it's going to happen. They could talk all they want. Of course, they're going to keep talking to save face. But the fact is, one, Bitcoin Cash or Bcash absolutely stole its thunder. Look, they have their big blocks, and it didn't hurt Bitcoin at all. It helped Bitcoin. Bitcoin's price doubled after it came out. And I think, honestly, that these people who joined Segwit 2X, some of them joined simply because they wanted to get Segwit in. Very smart. And honestly, I truly believe, I think Barry Silbert's great. I truly believe that he did that in the back of his mind principally because he wanted to get Segwit in. And he's like, I'll worry about the fork later. We got to get Segwit in. And it worked. It caused the universal soft fork, user-activated soft fork to come into being in BIP 141, and bam, you got your Segwit. And at this point, I can't imagine that most of the people who signed it, A, understand the technology at all, and B, if you're like me or you just look at it and go, okay, let's see. You got Bcash out there with the big blocks. Now you got B Gold that's going to come ahead of you, which may also, siphon out some of the demand for crypto. And what is exactly your value proposition? You're going to have, okay, Bitcoin already has Segwit, so you're going to have Segwit with 2 megabyte blocks. I mean, Segwit blocks are already like 4 megabytes. So what exactly is the value proposition? And on top of that, the no replay protection. If I'm a miner, or let alone I'm like a Coinbase still hasn't even split the Bcash yet. They don't even want to deal with it. You think they want to deal with this no replay protection? And as Jimmy Song talks about the costs that are imposed on the whole network of dealing with this stuff, with the no replay protection, I think, as Bitcoin Benny said, it just completely knocked out S2X at the knees, Bcash, and I don't think it's going to happen. I think if it does, it's going to be a giant embarrassment, which is well deserved by Jeff Garzik and anyone who supported this ridiculous fork that has frankly less usefulness, in my view, than Bcash.
Excellent points there. First of all, if Barry Silbert is really masterminding it, like you said he is, then he is awesome. Then he is a hero. If behind the scenes this is what he's been thinking the whole time, that's great. I guess we'll never really know. Maybe he'll come out and say it afterwards, but will we know that he's telling the truth? Who knows? Who cares? The point is though, is that 2X has been neutered a lot. And I think if it doesn't come out, or if it comes out as weak as it looks like it's going to come out now, after some news has broken earlier today, and I am not a fan of Bcash. I want to make that clear. And Andy's not a fan of Bcash either. Just because we say those words doesn't mean we like them. But I have to think that if 2X all of a sudden announces we're not happening, the Bcash price is going to probably soar.
Yeah, and so will the Bitcoin.
Yes. Oh, of course.
I can't emphasize enough, Adam, right? Again, I'm talking about 2018 will be the year that, the professional investments come in and the capital, the Wall Street type capital comes in. There are so few people in the Bitcoin community with financial backgrounds. And that's what's so great about it, because this has been the greatest investment that any of us have ever seen. And there's literally no professional financial backing behind it. And the people who are the most famous commentators have no financial background. I mean, Andreas Antonopoulos is, pretty much the #1 marketer, one of the most brilliant people that I've ever heard, and probably my biggest inspiration. He has zero background in Wall Street. He just is a coder who is a brilliant marketer. And I'm telling you that next year you're going to see this money come in. But more importantly, people have to listen to the financial people in the sector. I'm not just tooting my horn, but believe me, I have 3 decades of experience in financial markets and Wall Street. So I have a very unique perspective of how people act and what's going on. Tone is another perfect example of someone who he's really amazing, because he actually understands the technology. I mean, not as much as, say, Jimmy Song, but as much as pretty much anyone I listen to. And he also completely understands the Wall Street side of it. And then you have guys like Barry Silbert, who is a pure Wall Street type hedge fund, venture capital raising guy. He understands what it takes to make the price go up. He doesn't just talk about that he wants it. He's done things to make it happen. And so there's going to be a lot more guys like Barry Silbert that are going to be entering the fray in the next 12 months, whose sole goal is going to be to make the price go up. And so you're going to see a lot less influence from the Jihan Woos and the miners and the tech guys. I mean, I'm not disparaging. I think Luke Dash Jr. is amazing. But the fact that the leading proponents of Bitcoin have been like engineers and coders who are not really marketers, they're going to be replaced by marketers like Barry Silbert. And believe me, when those kind of people start to market, that's when you're going to really see the widespread adoption around the world from the mainstream.
Guys, that is it is early. It is early. And people try to say, oh, I missed out on these. It is early. That is what Andy is saying. And we've got a real exciting 2018 ahead of us. And who knows what's going to happen this year. It's happening so fast. And yeah, there's room for everyone in this space. Some people are going to be like, oh, we don't need Wall Street dudes. It's good to have that money flowing in here. It's good.
We need money. Money is what makes it go up, and no one has more money than Wall Street dudes.
So this is okay. You said Silbert knows how to pump. Silbert knows how to market, which leads me to a question I had no plans of asking, but you have kind of looked down upon Ethereum Classic before. He is a huge name involved with Ethereum Classic. That's one of the reasons I speculate with Ethereum Classic. I say it's a top tier is because of Barry Silbert, because of his unending desire to pump these things up. And I do have faith that he can do it. So what are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I'm not sure that I've, quote, looked down on Ethereum Classic. I just, for someone who's a monetary guy, that's what I do. I am terrified of Ethereum. I think it's a more of a tech stock than it is a cryptocurrency. And while it's probably going to maintain that #2 ranking for a very long time because there's not really many other choices out there, and it's got such a following from the Wall Street people, I think it's going to keep that value unless something really catastrophic happens to it, which is possible, but I don't know that, and I'm not betting on it. Ethereum Classic is kind of a weird, like, a bastard child, even though it was the original chain, because no one's paying attention to it. And yes, Barry Silbert is I'm watching. I know what he's doing. He's created the cap. It's not as small as the cap on the Bitcoin or Litecoin, but it is a cap. And he mentioned that their trust has like 3 or 4% of the. So he's trying to corner the market quietly, and he's going to be pumping it with marketing. So look, in a world where, as I said, trillions are going to be entering the sector, if Ethereum Classic really doesn't do anything except store value, which is, I think, his aim, it'll do fine. I really have no interest personally, but if I was going to be interested in something, I would certainly be looking at those check marks on my checklist of the financial backing, the cap. So it's just something that's in the back of my mind. But right now, me personally, I can't see any other crypto aside from Bitcoin or Litecoin that I have any real interest in. That could change in time.
I want people to take note of something that Andy, a term he used there as a and he's coming from my financial background, and I stress this too. It has a cap. It has a cap of 210 million, which actually it's 10 times the amount of Bitcoin. 10 times Bitcoin's 21 million cap is Ethereum Classic. So it's part of a puzzle, I think. I think that was logically picked so that they pray to the Lord that maybe one day it'll be worth 10% of Bitcoin. If it gets to be 1% of Bitcoin, that's great, I say, but for them. But again, Andy brings up a cap. People, with all the newbies coming into the space, the 80%, as I say, they don't care about, I mean, the whole point of this was to avoid inflation, to get away from at least to me, to get away from the fiat monetary system where it can just be printed up like crazy. And Ethereum has no cap yet, okay? So it's just amazing. And so many, and I'm not gonna pick on Ethereum, so many of these coins that people try to talk to me about have no cap. They're unlimited. They can be all of a sudden printed a bunch of it, a lot of them made out of the blue, like anything. So a cap to logical, long-term thinking financial people, it means a lot. It really means a lot. So I just want to stress, Andy bringing that up off the top of his head, that should tell you something, people.
And it's so funny because, you have this whole pre-mine thing where they say, yeah, we have a cap, like Ripple has a cap of 9 billion ripples. So yes, it is a cap, but it's a very large one. And honestly, 210 million, see, that's a big problem with Ethereum Classic. 210 million is a pretty large cap. I mean, it's really going to be hard, even in a very crypto-centric world, for that price to go that high with that many shares outstanding. Litecoin's going to have 80 million. That's reasonable. It's not amazing. Like Bitcoin's 21 million. And of course, it's going to take 100 years to get there. But 210 million is a lot. But again, it's like you said, it's so comical. I mean, if you're investing in something which has a limitless cap, you are really, really expecting great things. I mean, such an unbelievable technological advancement that it just couldn't care less from an investment standpoint how many shares are outstanding or coins outstanding, whatever you want to call it. So from my perspective, remember, the only reason, people, that I'm in cryptocurrency is the reason that I'm in gold. I'm a monetary guy. I am worried about inflation. I wrote one of the first posts in my Crypto Gold Central was the simplest possible reason, or the main tailwind behind Bitcoin and gold is inflation. That's what I've spoken about for 15 years, and more so now than ever that central banks are destroying their currencies at a rapid rate. But if a cryptocurrency does the same thing, why do I want to own it? Because Ethereum's got such amazing smart contracts. You are really betting that their smart contracts, or whatever it is that they're doing, can vastly outweigh the fact that there's limitless supply, and you couldn't pay me to take that bet.
Excellent. Everyone, pound that like button. This has been really awesome today. We got 2 more questions here. Or if you guys in the super chat want to do what you want to do, here is a guy who did the super chat. I'm going to read his question. I'm 20% metals, 80% crypto. What do you think about this balancing of the twin destroyers of the death and debt fiat monetary system?
Well, he's obviously a listener, a reader of mine if he says the twin destroyers. Again, those numbers are all entirely up to you. I've been asked for years, what percentage should I own gold versus silver? Well, whatever you feel comfortable with. I mean, there are a lot of people in the world who feel comfortable with 100% silver, and a lot who feel with 100% gold, and a lot with 50% of each. And, 80-20, it depends on about a million factors, starting with how much money you actually have and what your goals are and what you need to save for and what those cryptos are and what those precious metals are. So there's all kinds of questions. And again, you say 80-20 metals and crypto, but maybe that's only 10% of your assets. Maybe the other 90% is in cash or stocks or bonds or your house. So there's a lot to think about. But for everyone, I wrote an article many years ago. You can Google all my stuff, called Protection Continuum, where I basically said it's up to you to decide how far you want to protect yourself from all the things that's going in the world and what makes you comfortable investment-wise.
Now, speaking about what's going on in the world, on my show yesterday, and people can check out the notes section below to see a link to my show yesterday, and also to check out all of Andy's pertinent links, his Steemit, his Twitter. You should follow him there, his CryptoGoldCentral.com, which he announced on the show earlier today. Well, anyway, I talked about Venezuela yesterday. And actually, I thought Gabriel might be in the chat, but I got word there was a Spanish article, a Spanish language article that came out a few days ago saying that the government of Venezuela definitely does not like the sanctions of the U.S. And they want to get away from the dollar. And they definitely are buying gold. They said they actually dig up a lot of gold in that country too, and they're hoarding their gold. But a minister in the parliament specifically brought up cryptocurrency and talked about it and said that they had some interest in it. If they actually started buying up cryptocurrency, that would be huge. I mean, if they make it legal, they could do a lot of different things. It would change things there. It would definitely be positive, probably for Venezuela and for Bitcoin. So what do you think about that situation?
Right. Well, look, Venezuela is a basket case. And yes, they do produce gold. It's rapidly depleting. But I would doubt anything that said that. For one, we know that in the past few years, they have sold a lot of their gold simply to stay afloat because they owe so much money. In fact, they've used Goldman Sachs, of all people, to broker their transactions, literally because they needed cash to pay their bills and not have the government collapse. So I would be surprised if they have any ability to do that. I would bet they're selling their gold that they produce hand over fist because they need capital, like dollars, because bolivars are useless. They're becoming wheelbarrow currency right now. So I don't really believe that too much. And look, we are going to see governments print money to buy cryptocurrency. I mean, they print money to buy everything else. Why not print money to buy something that's going up in value and may wind up being in the future monetary standard? The problem with Venezuela is how much currency do you have to print to buy Bitcoin with? I mean, they are literally hyperinflating. So I think it's a little too late. It's not too late for the smart people, entrepreneurs in the country like Gabriel, who've made enough personal capital and have figured out ways to buy it. But for the country, as the government, I doubt they have anything to their name. And it's going to be very hard. What you're going to see, though, is countries who still have fiat currencies that have some value, diminished, but still plenty, start to buy it. And it'll start with the people in the government. Like you'll find out that actual senators, not for the country, but for themselves, have been buying it. And people on the European Bank Board and Federal Reserve members will be buying it. But eventually you'll start to see some of the more aggressive banks do it. They'll do it. Most of them will do it in secret. But then you've got banks like the Bank of Japan, the Bank of Switzerland, which literally overtly tell us they're buying stocks. We know they're all buying bonds. That's what QE is about. So it's not a far cry to say they buy cryptocurrency. And in the case of Japan and Switzerland, they are telling you they are buying stocks. The Japanese central bank owns 3/4 of all the equity ETFs in Japan. And that's not a typo, what I'm saying. That's actually true. And Switzerland, the Bank of Switzerland has been the biggest buyer of Apple stock for the past 2 years. So it's not a far cry to say if they're monetizing bonds and monetizing stocks that they will use the currencies that still have some value, like the Swiss franc and the yen and the dollar and the euro, to buy cryptocurrency. I have no doubt. I'm sure some of them have done it already. And actually, something I tweeted today, we haven't even talked about the Chinese FUD.
Yeah.
Again, look, this is the second straight weekend now. The second straight weekend where right before the weekend, crazy FUD from China. The first one, the ICO thing, which really has nothing to do with Bitcoin. I mean, it's very difficult to see how anyone could see that as bad news. And then this one from Friday morning, which is, somewhere between FUD and fake news. I tweeted this morning, I said, the unregulated but highly liquid Bitcoin market represents the single best insider trading opportunity in history. So for all we know, it was the PBOC putting out that FUD this on Friday and last Friday because they knew the price would crash and that they could buy up all the Bitcoin. And so some of it we've done covertly, and in time you're going to see there will be some central banks that are going to, as the winds of the tides change, the winds change, they will realize that it's time to buy Bitcoin and maybe even talk about buying Bitcoin. And by the way, they will also start at some point talking about how they're buying gold. We know that the Russians are doing it. We know the Chinese are doing it, even though they don't talk about it that much. But eventually, when you start to see fiat currencies fall and you start to see the value of Bitcoin and gold rise, you're going to see more and more central banks not only doing it, but talking about doing it. That is absolutely guaranteed. And perhaps you'll see some of these announcements in 2018. But I really doubt it's going to be Venezuela. I think it's way past the end of the road for that government.
Well, yes, we had another FUD Friday. I mean, they love the FUD to do it on Friday. Okay, and actually, what you said actually made me think. China, we're used to these China FUD Fridays, whatever day of the week they are. People just blindly panic on China rumors. Imagine when either fact or rumor comes out that China is buying Bitcoin. What that will do to the Bitcoin price. I mean, and one day that is going to happen. And I have no doubt some of their insiders in their Politburo or whatever, their communist government, they're buying Bitcoin, those guys.
Which they could leak, right? Just like they leaked this, whether it was
exactly.
Because look, I mean, if there was a legitimate rumor, and again, obviously what would happen last weekend was considered legitimate enough to knock the price down by $600. But if there was any kind of legitimate rumor, let's say it came out Monday that there was the Chinese bank was thinking about acquiring Bitcoin, the price would be over 10,000 within 2 days, and that would go the same for any country that has any currency that still has any value. And I'm not talking about just the dollar and the euro. I mean, if the Bank of Australia or Canada or Mexico or you name, there's a lot of countries out there that have any kind of reasonable valued currency that they were buying a little bit, you'd see 5-digit Bitcoin within days.
Yeah, but the thing is, part of the strategy of these countries is, I think, they're going to want to buy it secretly before they make an announcement, so they keep the price down so they can get it cheap. And even it would benefit them to create FUD to make it even cheaper, which is part of your theory with the China
Absolutely,
thing.
And that's what's been going on with gold forever. That's why the Chinese have not allowed an ounce of the Chinese are the largest gold producers in the world, and yet they have not allowed an ounce to leave the country in at least a decade. The same with the Russians, because they want to acquire it all and they're looking for opportunities to acquire it. I mean, they're telling you they're buying it, and the Russians are telling you they're buying it. They have no incentive to just come out and say that. Obviously, if there's some kind of currency crisis, that time will be. But who knows what goes on in these governments? Again, there's currency wars going on, and there's diplomatic wars and political wars. And believe me, for the big hegemon, the dollar, you're talking about Venezuela's angry at them. Everyone's angry at them. China, Russia, we're fighting them all. And believe me, a surging Bitcoin price, a surging gold price, surging silver price are all things that will cause hurricane-like, tsunami-like damage to U.S. dollar hegemony. So there are many reasons why that these things could be said or done. And there are many catalysts that could cause them, some of which are planned and some of which are, I guess you can call black swan, unplanned. But believe me, there is going to be an inexorable buying of Bitcoin and gold and selected other assets by people who are looking to take down dollar and fiat hegemony. And in due time, we will find out about it, whether it's by accident or on purpose.
Yeah, I think one of those middle of the road economies that has an all right currency, I think they'll be the one that leaks the information. Like once they've gotten as much as they want, like I don't know, maybe a country like Israel or something like that. I was going to say Singapore, but they've got a better currency than Israel. But once a country like that, a smaller one, buys up as much as they can get, they'll leak it. Hey, we did it, and then they'll become a lot richer.
Think about it. It doesn't take much. Let's say you had a super influential guy in, pick a government, Canadian or New Mexican, right? These are people that we are antagonizing, who are our competitors as much as they are our allies. We've obviously certainly been antagonizing them. What if they had a couple of super smart crypto savvy guys who had the ear of the president, and the president was amenable to doing things that may be in the interest of the country, especially when they can still print money and get away with it and the value of the currency? What if the Canadian government has acquired, pick a number, 300,000 Bitcoins, right? And what if they're having problems? Maybe they'll want to leak something that might get the price up. Do the math. 300,000 times really big numbers can be a country-saving thing. And it can also be a relative country-saving thing, meaning you can take market share monetarily and in many other ways if you were one of the smart ones that bought early. So there's going to be fortunes made personally in the world compared to legacy fortunes, but also there's going to be major changes in the political monetary order, in large part due to what decisions countries make regarding things like Bitcoin.
I want to say that back in 2016, I want to give a little credit to Vinny Lingham because he brought this aspect of it up before anyone did. He said that in 2017, countries would start buying it up. And that line alone, combined with his whole post, really inspired me a lot to ramp up my buying part of my buy and hold policy. And it's definitely helped me a lot in life it's just another reason to hold. But I wanted to give that out because, people have been saying this for a while. You're going to hear more and more about this country-specific country-specific buying of Bitcoin, speculation about it as we get into 2018. But we had a guy talking about it in 2016, and I'm glad I was paying attention in 2016.
And you know what, Adam? We talk about that. Don't forget about when we talk about silver to Bitcoin's gold. It's not just political reasons and monetary reasons that governments are going to do this. I mean, there are some serious investment opportunities out there, and I can guarantee you that a lot of the smart governments in the world are adding to their government leadership, their cabinets, their advisors, people who know such things. And when you talk about something like Litecoin, look, Bitcoin is getting to the point already. I know it's just $70 billion market cap, but it's not so easy anymore to acquire a world-changing position. I mean, it's getting to be not only expensive, but very thin. And I think that they're going to try to diversify, which is a big reason why I talk about the trillions going into the sector. And I really do think that governments are going to look at Litecoin too, because it's very liquid right now and they can acquire huge amounts of it at relatively low prices. If you're looking at monetary assets, to me, there's only two. There's Bitcoin and Litecoin. So there's, from a quote speculative standpoint, there's many reasons to like Litecoin just as much as Bitcoin. And as for the rest of them, I have a feeling you're going to find Ethereum and all these other ones on their balance sheets too at some point. Just keep in mind that 2018 is going to not just have the Wall Street money start to join the party, it's going to have the government money join the party, some of it secretively, some not so secretively. So no matter what the government say, it's not too difficult for them to set up accounts, offshore accounts that start acquiring this stuff just in case the anti-Bitcoin propaganda they put out is wrong.
Wow, you just made me think of something, and I'm not saying this is true or I believe this is going to happen, But I have noticed in my experience that it is human nature for people to think that they missed out on Bitcoin, or Bitcoin is too expensive. And maybe it is, although you can buy a small amount of it. But if you're a government, you want to buy a lot of Bitcoin. So it could actually be too expensive for them. So they want to be in on the second Bitcoin. There's so many people out there who just buy Litecoin because they want it, and buy Ethereum because they want to be on the second Bitcoin. So if that is the human nature, there are going to be some, I'm not going to say there could be some governments out there, and I have never thought of this until you just mentioned it, that'll be like, screw this, we're a third world, we don't have enough to risk on this. We risk everything anyway. Let's just risk it on this Litecoin thing and pray that it does what Bitcoin does.
Exactly, Adam. This is what I've been watching for 15 years in the precious metal space, and 6 years at one of the largest dealers in the country. There's a lot of people who feel that they can't afford gold, so they buy as much silver as they can. And it's not that the logic is flawed, but it's the exact same human nature thing. Simply saying, gold can't go up as much because it's just too expensive, so I'll buy the one that's cheaper. But the fact is, there's no guarantee that the cheaper one will go up more than the more expensive one. It could happen. It's certainly possible that silver will outperform gold. It's certainly possible that Litecoin will outperform Bitcoin. But in my later years, as I move on, I look and I get more conservative, and also I learned a heck of a lot about the world. Me personally, I want my assets dominated in ultra premium #1 assets, which are gold and Bitcoin. And yes, I do believe silver is going to go up. I do believe Litecoin is going to go up. But there are a lot of people who will only invest in silver and Litecoin because they feel that they've missed out and they can get more. In the case of silver, I think it's going to be a little more of a difficult ride to get those kind of returns, because of the fact that it's so hard to store so much of it. But in Litecoin's case, I absolutely expect the Venezuelans of the world to actually, try to get in on it, because maybe they could afford to buy some. And, fortunes will be made. There are going to be countries that buy lots of Litecoin and watch it go up to, I have no doubt it's going to be a $50 billion market cap at some point. Maybe it'll be more. And if you're a small country, it's doubtful that you're going to be able to buy enough Bitcoin if you don't have much capital reserves to make those kind of returns. But in Litecoin, it's possible you could.
I want to say that people are going to obviously say when they watch this video that we should have brought up Ethereum just now also. And yeah, even though Ethereum has no cap, I would, considering that mentality of the governments, I would say some would definitely consider Ethereum also to get their second Bitcoin on. Even though it doesn't make the most sense maybe they'll have a cap one day. Governments will. If they think Bitcoin is too expensive, I could see them going to Ethereum also. I could. Although Litecoin, you see the reason we do the Litecoin comparison all the time is because Litecoin basically is Bitcoin. It's the same type of thing. Ethereum is a different animal totally, but if you're looking for a second Bitcoin and you don't know that much about cryptocurrency, then yeah, you're going to see, that name Ethereum, yeah. You're going to jump in.
Well, Ethereum will do fine if it doesn't have a catastrophic blow up, and those risks are there. You listen to people in the space and they say that there are many, many issues, starting with its centralization. So something could happen, or heck, maybe the B Gold guy is right. He actually has a platform which can compete. Then again, I've heard Bitcoin with SegWit will have the ability to compete with Ethereum. So Ethereum has got a lot of headwinds going against it. So I'm not so sure I would say that it will blindly just be around forever. I think it'll take some time before people realize that it has these headwinds. And if nothing catastrophic happens, it'll be an amazing investment. It'll just go up with the space. But it is, in my view, more of a tech stock as opposed to Litecoin, which, as you say, is just Bitcoin Lite, hence the name. Yeah. So I think, it's like buying silver, versus gold. It's definitely got the same properties. It's not identical, but it'll go up for the same reasons, whereas Ethereum's got many more issues to deal with.
All right. Well, we have spoke a lot today. This has been awesome. Pound that like button, people, if you've enjoyed this. I'm going to wrap it up right now. I wanted to say that something I mentioned before that, I was paying attention in 2016. I've been paying attention for a while. And all the people who are watching this, you're paying attention also. So listen to people like Andy, come to this channel, go listen to Tone Vays, listen to Vinny, try to just pay attention, not just try to comprehend everything that is going on. The more you learn about this space, the better, decisions you're going to be able to make. Again, for me, it's just holding Bitcoin. It's real simple. I don't try to complicate things at all. Andy, you obviously are a holder also. I mean, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you believe in the holding, don't you?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's been my whole career has been, about buying and holding. It's been in precious metals, and it is far more in Bitcoin than in precious metals, because it really is it's a challenge to acquire it, and it's going to become it may become more of a challenge to acquire it. So if you got it, especially with these crypto dividends that can come out of nowhere, I think you'd be crazy to sell it, especially when the price gets knocked down because of FUD. And as I said today, I mean, at what point do people realize that China can't change Bitcoin? I mean, I love that tweet the other day, the person who said, "I wish we could ban China from Bitcoin." You know what? If we learn tomorrow that no one in China could participate in Bitcoin, and nothing the Chinese government could ever say would have any impact, the price would surge, because we're just so sick of hearing about them. There's a whole world of billions of people that could not care less about China and the Chinese government. So, keep in mind, if you have Bitcoin, just hold it or hodl it to the best of your ability, because you have many good years to come, in my very strong view.
Yeah, guys, don't fall for FUD by trolls and troll-like people and people just trying to get you to sell for cheap. All right, and do you have any conclusionary remarks before we get out of here? The floor is yours.
Yeah, I'm just thrilled to be on my own for the first time in my career, which has spanned nearly 3 decades. And CryptoGoldCentral.com, I think you're going to find, especially when I get the free 7-day trial, which I should have done initially, that I am not just prolific in talking about cryptocurrency and gold and precious metals, but I'm really going to give some insights that are going to empower you in the way that, say, the Bitcoin Meister show does. Because look, our goal is to survive and thrive in a world where the monetary system is going to be completely changed in the coming years. And thankfully for the 99%, we now have this vehicle where everyone has the ability to participate, so long as they have a computer. And so please go to CryptoGoldCentral.com and subscribe. $225 is nothing for what you're going to get. And look, I'm always happy to answer your questions at my brand new email address, ahoffman@CryptoGoldCentral.com.
Awesome. Well, Andy, thank you very much. This was our best show yet together. I don't know, was this our 5th show? I mean, this is really awesome. So thank you so much for being on the show. And you will be back soon enough. Who knows if it'll be on This Week in Bitcoin first, so it'll be a separate Andy Hoffman show. We're getting great feedback already. So everyone, spread the word about the show. Pound the like button, share the video, subscribe to the channel, subscribe to Andy, check out all of his links below. Hey, and that's it. So I'm Adam Meister, the Bitcoin Meister, the Disrupt Meister. Thanks a lot, everyone. I will say hello to you in the chat after Andy and I get done chatting offline. Bye-bye.